For the first time ever, I am thrilled to say we have an official sponsor for the Dirt Talk podcast, and that's Ariat. I've worn Ariat boots on every job site I've visited over the years, traveling in them across 5 continents. More importantly, I have yet to find a single project where working folks, unlike me, are not wearing Ariat boots and workwear in every condition imaginable. And there's really good reason for that, and that's because it's phenomenal stuff. And the more I've learned about Ariat and the company, the more I've loved their brand. So with this, Ariat is offering any Dirt Talk listener 10% off their next Ariat order at ariat.com/dirttalk. That's 10% off boots, jeans, and workwear at ariat.com/dirttalk or at the link in this episode's description. With that, let's get to the show. I'm not a really fancy watch guy.
I like high quality watches. So like I grew
Which I
up
appreciate. Yeah.
in Lancaster, and Hamilton's pretty famous. So all of our apprentices in our electrical company, when they graduate, they get a Hamilton watch just because it kind of is and Hamilton that's why I asked what you were wearing there, because they are famous for their military watches, like the khaki.
Yeah. I like small watches too. It's really hard to find a small men's watch. This is I think it's a 34 millimeter.
Oh my gosh, that's small.
Yeah. I don't like, some of these, like that's probably what, 40, 42 maybe?
That's
probably
47.
bigger. 47.
47.
Yeah. My preference, I just like the small ones. But then, yeah.
When I wear the small watches, for whatever reason, my wrists, it makes me look weird.
Yeah. I feel weird when I have a big one.
Yeah.
So this watch too, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I can go to job sites or do whatever and travel. I don't worry about it. If it gets stolen, it is what it is. Go get another one.
Well, and if you wear a watch that, like a Rolex, I hate Rolex.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it has such this persona
that
if you wear it,
it is kind of and there are some Rolexes that are like properly baller.
Yes.
But that's not the majority of Rolex. And they make over 1 million of them a year. So they're not all that rare. I just, most of them are kind of douchey.
Yeah.
They're in it, it's like oftentimes a specific person kind of wearing that, sporting that.
True.
Yeah. I give my brother shit because he's a car salesman. Nice car salesman. He was at BMW. Now he's at Audi.
Yeah.
But when he went over to BMW, he was at Penske before. So pretty blue collar.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's quite the shift.
Yeah. So he goes to BMW and he drives a Toyota. And I'm like, Tyler, within 6 months, you're going to have a BMW. You're going to have a Rolex.
Yeah.
No fucking way that you don't have a Rolex within 6 months. 6 months goes by. He has a Rolex. He has a BMW.
That's hysterical.
Because I don't think you can be a car salesman without a Rolex. I don't think it works. I think it's like that's an essential tool, like a carpenter without a hammer.
I agree. I love the history of watches as well. Like, that's one of the things that I love about Hamilton is just they started as a railroad watch.
Yeah.
And they were really big on being on time. And so I love the mechanics. I love all of that stuff. And there are all sorts of different watches, but I actually look more at the history of where it comes from than I do anything else.
Yeah. That's
plus, what being punctual is huge for me.
Oh, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, it's huge for, I feel like, most people. I think that was one of I got to learn a lot of basics from successful people by watching them growing up because they were my friends' dads.
Yeah.
Being on time.
Yeah.
That is like the basic thing. And my dad, he would chew our asses if we were late.
Yeah.
Fuck, we would get late into, man.
I used to be told that if you were on time, you were late.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sayings. If you're on time, you're late. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I, we would go to a friend's house or a party or something like that, and she would always get mad because we would try to be late and we would end up showing up right on time just because it's just ingrained in me.
That's see, with parties, you can't show up on time because no one's fucking there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, but that's exactly what I would do, especially even in college. Like, all right, party's starting at 10. It's not really starting till like 11:30.
Exactly.
But I'd be there like 10:05, and it'd be me and whoever else lives at the fucking house that was having the party, and I would just be hanging out.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie.
Yeah, until it gets to 11:30, 11:45, everybody's there now, and I'm like, this is too many people, and I would just leave.
Yeah.
Every time. like clockwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But now some guy, he posted on LinkedIn the other day, I saw, they carries a book everywhere when he's waiting. And I'm like, oh man,
That's actually smart. Because it
So
makes
now
you
I've
look
been carrying a book
intelligent as
everywhere.
well.
Well, yes.
And you can fill time.
Yeah, but it helps you fill time if you're early without sitting on your phone fucking off. I can lie to myself all day and say I'm getting work done.
Yeah.
And sometimes I am, but I'm now starting to carry a book everywhere I go.
That's actually genius.
Yeah.
I mean, that really is.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I hate. We used to sit, when you would get into like a job trailer before a construction meeting or whatever, we'd have biweekly meetings. Used to talk with people.
Yeah.
Now when you sit in those meetings,
everybody's on their phone.
Everybody's on their phone. Nobody talks about anything.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting yelled at.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when I'm with my family, like I have to make a point of it. Like, hey, can everybody just put their phones over here? Yeah. Or last week I took some time off and I would just leave my phones. Because I can't. I talked to Randy about it last night. It's like if I bring them, I'm thinking about them.
Oh,
so I just leave them now.
Yeah.
Just forget about them, and it's great.
Yeah,
yeah. Can we move this a little bit?
Yeah, whatever you want.
If it gets warm in here, let me know too.
Okay,
I can turn the air conditioning down. Sometimes, right now it's the weird time of the year. Like you want the AC on sometimes. But then you want the heat on sometimes, but then you want the AC on sometimes, and you can't really figure out which is which.
I know
It just got cold today in Nashville.
I love it. I love the cold. So I love that it's cold today when I'm here. So I'm weird like that.
I'm the other way around.
I some of my favorite jobs that I ever worked on, and no one ever believed me, and I can't say it anymore because I don't work in the field. But like some of my favorite jobs were when it was like down in the teens or even below zero. Like,
did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
I did.
In the same area?
In the same area. Yeah. And so we would do the company that I started working for. We did a lot of wastewater treatment work. And so I can remember being, it was like early January and it was like 5 degrees. And then with the wind chill, and we would be working out on like a wet well or something like that.
Yeah. It's
doing
wet.
Control work. Yeah. And it's like, we literally would get in and out of the truck to warm our hands because you couldn't wear gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now with social media, everybody's like, oh, well, 5 degrees. That's not even that cold. Like, oh, what about, us up in Alberta? We do minus 100.
Well, and that's why I don't talk about it.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to outdo each other when it's cold. It's like, I don't know. I mean, that's properly cold.
Well, my favorite is when it's cold enough, and you got to be equipped for it. You got to have the right gear.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
When I was an apprentice, I had, bibs, I had all this stuff. And so it was like, and I had spent tons of money. Dude, your feet are the most important thing.
Yeah.
I spent more money than I ever thought I ever would on boots.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pair of well, I won't say the brand because if anybody criticizes it, I don't know if I'd be able to survive that.
What was it?
But Red Wing.
Okay.
I would have a pair of Red Wings.
Were they insulated?
They were insulated, and it was, at this point in time, it was pretty new. They had this waterproof technology that my feet could still breathe. And so I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
So you don't get all sweaty in there.
Yeah. You don't get all sweaty.
Yeah.
I can remember standing in a manhole for a wire pull, and my boots were totally covered in water and my feet were dry, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So
it's, I go back, when I'm home, I typically wear like tennis shoes, like running shoes, because they're just more comfortable walking around doing so many, because I walk a lot, especially when I'm on the phone. I just go do laps in the parking lot. And they're a lot more comfortable, but then I'll like walk around in some dirt or mud and then remember like, oh fuck, I have tennis shoes on. Like I need to be careful where I'm walking, and then like most of the time I have boots on, and you can just go anywhere.
You can just go anywhere.
Yeah, you don't have to care at all with what your concrete, mud, water. It doesn't matter. You can just walk through it.
Yeah.
When we went to Alberta a few years ago in January, that was one of their tips before going out, because I'm a Phoenix boy.
Yeah,
so
Phoenix. I've been there for the first time ever this year, and it is very different than anywhere else I've ever been.
It's a lot different. Yeah. So I didn't grow up around cold. I've never lived in cold until I moved to Nashville, and it's not even that cold here.
No, it's not.
It snows once a year.
Yeah.
But it's cold for me, properly cold, because in Phoenix in the winter, it's typically like 70 and sunny.
Yeah.
January, February, March, it's gorgeous. But they said if you just dress for it, it's not that bad. So then I learned how to dress for it a little bit better. And it's like, oh yeah, this actually isn't so bad.
Yeah.
And when I went up there, I knew I needed a pair of insulated boots because that was one of the mistakes I made when I went to North Dakota one time in the winter.
Oh my.
Not insulated boots. And there's no sock that you can wear to keep your feet warm in the snow, in zero, whatever it is below. Then I remembered I had a pair of mountaineering boots from college.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, why don't I just wear these? Wore those. Perfect.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Mountaineering, but they're like Sportivas. So
if you keep your feet right on the job, that affects everything.
feet, hands,
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah. Exactly.
Head. Yeah.
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 If you got that right, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you said earlier this morning your father was tradesman,
Yes. Yeah.
but not electrical,
Not electrical. He was a carpenter.
carpenter.
Yeah. So I grew up, one of my earlier memories, I always wanted to figure out a way to, so we talked about this a little bit. I said, I grew up poor, but I want to be careful because there were definitely people more poor than I was. But,
Yeah.
in
Again,
our area,
Tommy Toppers. Well, I was
Yeah.
even more poor. It's like,
Exactly.
Okay, bro.
but
Good.
my dad would always say to me, well, if you want something, then you need to earn money for it. And so I remember when I was really young, I would go with him to the job sites and he'd pay me to clean up,
Yeah.
around the job. And, but yeah, he was a carpenter by trade.
So he'd actually pay you. He didn't just use you as free help,
So,
or sometimes.
I negotiated a payment from him
Sure.
because I was already doing it. And so I had to do the free work and then I had to do work that I would get paid for.
Okay.
So
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was both.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're getting paid
Yeah.
for everything, I wouldn't believe you.
no, I had a certain amount of things that I had to do. And then beyond that, we would call that overtime now, but
Sure.
he just called that when you deserve to get paid.
Well, and I think no children on job sites is one of the worst things that's happened to the industry. And people like, I'm kind of being
So
funny.
this isn't a serious podcast.
No,
Okay.
I'm kind of being funny when I say we should bring back child labor, but it was you ask people,
Yeah.
how'd you come up in the trade? I grew up on job sites.
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
When I talked with Randy, he talked about driving a water truck.
Yes.
I didn't experience anything like that at 12 years old. Holy cow.
yeah.
Yeah.
But and those are some of people's fondest memories too. Like, but and then everybody, they complain when people like me show up on job sites, 18 years old. That's the earliest age you can legally work on a job site nowadays
Yeah.
in most places, knowing nothing. Because it's like, well,
And then we're really frustrated that you don't know anything.
exactly. Yeah. Why don't you know how to use a ratchet strap? It's like,
Yeah.
bro, I've never been around a ratchet strap. I didn't grow up around it. My parents weren't involved in this work. I have never been on a job site because I needed to legally get here.
Said your dad was a lawyer. He could have used a ratchet strap for his files or something.
He was not a ratchet strap kind of guy. Let me tell you. Like, I joke saying he'd call somebody to change a light bulb, but it's like not a joke at the same time. Yeah, he definitely used his mind more than his hands for his craft.
That is really ironic that you're doing what you're doing and he would call someone to change a light bulb.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I don't claim to be handy though.
So you
either.
call someone to change a light bulb?
No, I figured that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I can do the basics. I like to be a mildly capable man.
Yeah.
And so, like, my truck tire, find it flat the other day. I can change the tire. It's like, all right, I can do the basics. I can do life. But if it's like, I could probably replace a switch maybe or a socket in my house.
That sounds like a challenge. I think I'm going to come over to your place and we'll
No,
we'll
I think
try that.
I think I could do that, but beyond that, I wouldn't try to do myself.
Do you know the difference between a three-way switch and a single pole switch?
Nope.
Okay,
No.
You're screwed.
No, I could replace an existing
Okay.
with a new one because
Okay.
then I'd have the puzzle figured out.
I
have, like,
believe
the
that 'cause
picture
you
on the
seem
box.
very methodical.
Yeah.
So you remind me of one of those guys. I remember coming up in the trades, guy would take something apart and he would like mark everything.
Yeah.
So he knew exactly where he took his time and did it right and actually ended up being faster than some of the other guys because he was methodical about it.
I mean, yeah, even like keeping track of where you leave your screws and shit.
Yeah.
When you take something apart, okay, I'm going to lay it out so that I'm not looking all over for that. All right, where's the last one? Like I knew I had 4 of them. I only
Right.
have 3. Where'd the last one go? It's like, well, I'm just going to lay them out. So I have them. We're good.
Have you seen like the technology in some of the gear that's coming out is ridiculous. I saw a guy on a job site the other day. He was wearing this wrist thing, and it was magnetic.
Oh,
and
that's
he just
cool.
threw the screws on it.
That's pretty
and
cool.
they just hung on it.
Yeah.
So he had them right there, and I was like, "Where was that?"
That's actually
Yeah.
So, like some of the stuff's pretty gimmicky.
Yeah.
But stuff like that's like
Yeah.
or even the magnet, like the magnets they have in tools nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Like just the magnetic screwdrivers, like how just wildly helpful that is. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
When did you officially enter the world of the trades?
Oh,
Right after high school?
I actually was still in high school.
Okay.
The trades were, I entered them solely for the reason not to be in them.
Sure.
I grew up, Dad was a carpenter, and, if my dad's listened to this, I had a great life, but when I was young, I didn't think I had a great life.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, I wanted a different life, and I didn't see that doing the same thing that my dad was doing was going to give me that. And I grew up, all of my friends, and everybody that talked, it was like, oh, your dad's a carpenter. Oh, your dad's a carpenter. Oh, you work in construction. It was like you were looked down on. And so I viewed getting into the trades and getting into construction as my way out.
Yeah.
Because it was something that I knew. And
you could make some money and then be on your way.
So I had a desire. I wanted to do a certain thing with my life, and it was really expensive to do that. And so
what was that?
I wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, okay.
So,
that is expensive.
Yeah, it was. And my dad had always said, well, if you want to do something and we don't have the money for it, then go get a job and figure out how to do it. So I've had jobs well before legally allowed to, multiple different ones. I can remember I negotiated buying a paper route from a guy because I wasn't old enough to do the paper route. And so I said, I'll do all the work for you if you give me this much money, less than what you're getting paid to do it. But, you can take 5 or 10% off the top, but then I take everything else.
Sure.
And so, because I wasn't legally old enough to do the work.
How old did you have to be to have paper?
You were supposed to be 12 years old.
12.
And I did it for 2 years that way. I can remember I was sitting at home and I was telling my mom, I need to make money. I need to make money because I wanted to be able to do certain things. And so I went to the neighbor kid and I made that proposal. And so if you needed to be 12, that would have made me 9.
Mm-hmm.
So did that for a couple of years and then stopped. And it worked out really well. He got used to getting money for not doing any work. And so then when I stopped doing it for just a little bit, he's like, this sucks. So he just quit. So then I took his route and then,
nice.
And then I did that same thing. I got other paper routes as well and then built it to a point that I was making pretty good money.
Huh.
So,
were you just doing it on a bicycle?
Yeah, I was just doing it on a bicycle. But then I got so many that I actually remember we were poor and my parents were kind. So I started paying them to drive me because I had gotten some additional routes where it was like the Sunday paper, which is like obnoxious. And so it would come in 3 different deliveries and you'd have to put it together. So the paper was like 2 inches thick.
So you couldn't carry it. You couldn't
carry it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I
would pay their gas and then I would give them a piece of the pie as well.
I see.
But it wasn't I don't think they did it because they wanted the money. I think they did it because it was my idea.
Yeah.
So,
which is cool because even having parents that support you, I think is so, I don't know. My parents have always supported me.
Yeah.
So I've taken it for granted.
Yeah.
But I've realized a lot of parents don't support people.
Yeah.
Especially when they try to go outside of the box.
Yeah.
And that can be tough. So
I think my parents were not only really supportive in that way, but I don't know if they knew what to do with me because from a very young age, we live in a farm town, like Amish country.
Mm-hmm.
And when I grew up, there's a farmer's market where they would sell animals and things like that. And we would go there. That was the fun thing to do. And I forget how old I was. I was probably like 8 years old. And I remember I was there with my dad and they were auctioning off animals. And so there were all these little ducklings and I had heard this guy talking and I knew I knew that people paid money to eat ducks.
Uh-huh.
And so they're auctioning them off. And it was like, oh, they were like 10 cents a piece.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went over to my dad.
Calculating how many ducks you could buy.
I went over to my dad and I said, listen, if we buy this many ducks and I raise them and then we can sell them for like $30 or $40 a duck.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, we could make some money. And so my dad gave me like $5. I bought a ridiculous amount of ducks.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So the line wasn't even drawn at ducks.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
my
more
poor
productive
parents,
though. But that like
they were cleaning the stalls with the ducks with me.
That's every parent will tell you. Yeah. If your kids con you into getting an animal, you're going to be the one taking care of it.
Absolutely.
They are not going to be the one taking care of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you actually sell the ducks?
I did. But when you're 8 or 9 years old, the pity factor, I don't have that anymore. When I try to sell people things, they're like, no.
Yeah.
That's usually the answer that I
rocks.
get. Yeah. But I sold the ducks. If you calculated all the work and all the time that we put into the work, I don't know if we made money, but it was a very valuable lesson.
Sure.
For sure. And it was just more money that I was able to then put away to put into the next thing.
So was that the driver for money, or were you buying like toys and stuff too along the way?
So the original driver was all my friends had a Nintendo.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah.
I
knew there was something.
It's really interesting because when you look back, what a Nintendo cost then and what it costs now, I don't know that it correlates because it was a lot of money back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had gotten all the money saved up, but then I couldn't let it go. So I actually never got a Nintendo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was like, it cost this much money. And I knew what that money cost. That money cost shoveling duck shit, which is pretty nasty. That cost, having to, like, my dad didn't let me out of anything. So when it came time to butcher the ducks, he's like, here's an axe. I had to go through all of it. Now,
yeah, you wanted ducks, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
We plucked them. We did all of it. And it was cool. Some of the other community came over and helped, like when we did that. So it was like, I didn't do all the work myself.
Yeah.
But I knew what that money was worth. And when it came time to be like, I still remember like, all right, okay, we can go buy a Nintendo. And I looked at the money and I looked at the Nintendo and I looked at the money and I was like, I can't do it.
I think that's a lesson I learned when I was in Montana, is the value of $1.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend's dad talking a lot about that, like just understanding the value of $1. And when you have to work hard for that $1, you don't want to part ways with it nearly as quickly. I mean, some people part ways with it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how hard they're working. But it is quite interesting if you have to really work for it. It's like, why would I do that? Let me just keep it going. Let me just use that money to make more money.
Well, and technology even tricks you, at least it does me, into letting go of it easier.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I have a wad of cash, which I don't have a lot.
Yeah.
When I don't typically deal in cash when I'm traveling and whatnot. But when I have a wad of cash and I go out to dinner or something, I watch it get smaller.
Uh-huh.
When I have a credit card, I just tap it.
It's just magic.
It's just magic. And I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So
that's what they like.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Amish country thing is interesting too.
So you have your keys on the are you going somewhere?
No, I needed to unlock the bathroom before this. The Amish thing.
country.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. The first time, again, kid from Arizona, Scottsdale, I thought that was the world. And then I started really seeing the world in college. And then when I started BuildWit, traveling all over, and some of the first work I was doing was in Pennsylvania. So the first time I went to go to Pennsylvania was for Mushlets, which was out of Allentown.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Bath, technically.
Yeah. I know where that is.
And then we started working with Berg out of, you said Morgantown.
Yeah.
I didn't remember the town, but that's Morgantown. So we stayed, I feel like it was like Honeybrook maybe.
Yeah, that would be probably where you stayed.
Yeah. So we stayed in an Airbnb.
Well, you were in the heart of Amish country, man.
It was so Amish because it was this little farmhouse Airbnb in beautiful farm country. sign me up.
Yeah.
And then the moment we get into the Airbnb, you hear the clock, 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 clock down the street. And you're like, what is that? You look out the window and it's like 3 kids in a carriage and a horse.
Yeah.
Just cruising down the street. You're like, what is this place? And then I go for a run and I remember all of the families working together out in the fields, like doing whatever they're doing or tending to the house, or like all the families were out and about at their farmhouses doing whatever they were doing. And
probably before you were out and about.
Yeah. No, but I remember running like into the evening, so the sun was setting, and it was like the whole family was still out in the farm, out in the field working.
Yeah,
and all the clothes were hung up outside the house, no washer and dryer. The tractors and stuff had different kinds of wheels because I think some can use rubber, some can't use rubber.
Yeah,
but a lot of
rubber is sinful. I don't know why, but it is.
And so you'll have skid steers with steel wheels or tractors with steel wheels, which is crazy.
I find it fascinating that's not normal to you. I literally grew up with that.
But that's the world you grew up in. But from an outside perspective, and I think this was in 2020 too. So this was when we were driving around the United States. We stayed out there. And so it was May of 2020, like peak COVID, everybody losing their minds. I'm running around this place.
The Amish didn't care.
These people, they don't even know. Like they don't care. They don't know.
Yeah.
They're just doing life like they were doing it 6 months ago.
Exactly.
Nothing has changed for these people, which just blew me away.
Yeah.
And it's that whole area. It's not like this. I stayed in like the one Amish neighborhood.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, a lot of that area. Yeah.
They, when you talk about the value of a dollar, they have money. They understand the value of a dollar.
I've heard they've got some coin.
Oh,
too.
they do.
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah.
One of my jobs when I was young, I worked for an Amishman, and his house burned down. And it was the most fascinating thing I ever saw. Their insurance is they all come together. And so if your house burns down, the entire community comes together and they just rebuild his house.
And it's like 100 guys show up and they build it like they that.
Build it. It is.
I've seen videos
Extreme
of it.
Home Makeover Edition Amish.
Crazy.
Like, I mean, it was like, yeah. It's insane. I remember talking with him, and he had some deer rifles and things like that got burned up. And he's like, oh, well, the insurance, this is not what they're called, but he's like, the insurance bishop is coming over, and it was the bishop, and he would decide, okay, what guns did you have? Okay, here's some money, go buy yourself a new gun. Like, they just all came together
it's
in
like
community.
Self-insured.
Yeah, very much. Very much.
My favorite Amish fact I learned, I stayed in another house in that area, and it had like a calendar that was different carriages, so January.
Yeah.
Check out this carriage.
Yeah.
February. Check out this carriage. Like, whoa, this carriage looks pretty slick. And I think I put it on the internet, and then somebody started telling me how expensive some of these carriages are.
Oh.
Like well into 6 figures.
Yeah.
Some of these things.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's straight out of 1800, but apparently they spend some money on these horse-drawn carriages that they cruise around in all around town.
Yeah. Well, you talk about I think you were talking earlier about your brother being a car dealer. I had a friend who I grew up with, and sometimes the Amish decide to no longer be part of the community. And he would have some young Amish come in, and it's like, I want to buy that $60,000, Ford F-250 or $80,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they would literally just plop down the cash.
Yeah.
And he's like,
they probably don't have even like a bank or anything.
I don't know how they do that, but they have coin. That's for sure.
It kind of makes you wonder, like
they didn't buy the Nintendo either.
Well, yeah. Well, but it makes, they can't, I don't know if they can really have one, but it makes you wonder though. It's like, because you kind of look at them, you're like, oh man, they don't even know what modern life is like. And you kind of, in a way, like in an ignorant sense, pity them. But then pretty quickly, if you're mildly intelligent, you realize, maybe they're the ones that have it figured out.
Yeah.
And I'm the asshole because I'm in this rat race over here, and they're just out in the field with their family.
Yeah.
Just living life. Like maybe in 2020, May 2020, just doing what they do.
Yeah. They weren't affected at all. And it is crazy the way that they work. I will say, when I worked for an Amishman, it was over the summer, and we were baling hay, and whenever they would go away or something, I would take care of the cows as well. But we would work through the day, they know how to do it. Like lunchtime was like Thanksgiving at my house, but that was every day for them. They work like crazy. I mean, it was such hard work. And they probably were laughing at me because it was like, matter of fact, I was so weak as a young boy, I couldn't keep up with the hay bales coming onto the thing. So the Amishman that I worked for got so frustrated, he literally put me on the team of mules that would pull in the equipment. And that was pretty scary. A team of 12 mules. I think I was 13.
That's another thing. They plow their fields using mules.
Yeah.
I saw that a bunch too. It's like, this is crazy.
Don't tell anybody, but it's really easy because the mules, they knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't even
They've done it
me.
so many times
They
over.
didn't even need me.
Yeah. But there's no deaf issues or anything with mules. So you go through do a bunch of stuff, make some money as a kid.
Yeah.
But then high school, you become a tradesman, an electrician.
Yeah. Yeah. I needed something to pay for flight school.
Yeah.
So I started into a friend of mine, his family had this electrical company, had a really good reputation, and they did government work. So like airports and wastewater treatment plants. So we weren't doing like houses and things like that. And honestly, for the first part of my career, I thought electricians just bent conduit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strip some wires and screw them into the socket like I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very fascinating. The first wire pool that I was involved with, a guy came over with a vacuum cleaner, a big Greenlee vacuum cleaner. Like in the electrical world, that's the brand. And then he had a box of mice. That's what we called them, which is a lot like the microphone thing here. It was a piece of foam that had a wire through it, and then it had an eyelet on either side, and you'd tie a string to it. And the different sizes of mice would match the conduit, the inner wall diameter. And so you'd set that on there, and then you'd take a vacuum. I'm giving away all of our secrets here.
And just
suck it right through. And you could suck it 1,500 feet.
No shit.
Yeah. And,
like a bank.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. We would also have some fun with that because you might do a job, you put conduit underground and everything. And over time, electrical conduit condensates. It's not necessarily waterproof. So water can get in that conduit and lay there. And I told you I like working in the cold. So one January they sent me out. I opened up a box that had all these stub ups in it. My foreman's on the radio. He's like, "Hey, do you see the mouse yet?" And where I had put the mouse on there, and I'm like, it's not working. Vacuums have this feature on Greenlees where you can either suck or blow.
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting, and I'm like looking at the mouse. I'm like, what's going on? And he had put the blower on because he knew that the water was in the pipe and it was full of water. And I got showered with, I don't forget how many gallons of water in like mid-January. And they thought it was hysterical. I had to work the rest of the day freezing my ass off.
Yeah. Yeah. The, what happens in Arizona is you got to watch out for the water cart guy. Because the water cart guy, if you're not paying attention, you're getting a shower. Or if they're not paying attention, you're getting a shower. Like you're going to get wet. But it's actually
water cart guy?
Yeah. It's, they use like big water poles. So they're a scraper front with these big 6,000, 8,000 gallon tanks that they pull. Around these big earthwork sites.
Okay.
So they're just, because you have to, this is foreign to some people like in the Southeast, for example, but you have to add water just nonstop to everything in Arizona.
I believe that.
It doesn't compact.
And it's
so
still
dry.
all dead.
Yeah. So every earthwork project has a water truck, but if not like a water pole, water cart. And I get wet from that all the time, but it was actually kind of nice when it's hot.
I was gonna say, January is different than Phoenix, Arizona at any time.
It's not the worst. Yeah, it just depends where the water's coming from.
I didn't mind working in the cold, but I didn't like being wet in the cold.
No, that's miserable.
Yeah.
How expensive was flight school? Did you know that, or were you just like,
no,
I know it's expensive?
I knew that. It cost me back then for what I wanted to do. I think it was like $15,000.
So that's I mean, that's a lot of money, but that's not nearly what it is now.
No.
If you want to be a pilot now, good luck, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wildly expensive.
Well, and honestly, so it took a few years. And as I went through that process, I began to fall in love with the people that I worked with.
Yeah.
Like that sounds weird to say it that way. I wasn't in love with you, Chris, but but I enjoyed what we did because of who was there, not because of what we were doing.
Yeah. So was it like at a certain point you're just like, all right, pilot thing out, or was it just gradually eroded?
Well, the deal was I couldn't make the money being a pilot that I was making being an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was really
Go figure.
Fortunate that the company that I worked for, we did a lot of government work. You know, I mean, it depends on, you can make a wide range of money in the trades depending on what you're working in.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was very, very good in the type of work that we were doing. You know, I worked for a contractor that we might be on an airport project or a treatment plant project. And so it was all rate work. And so I just treated rate work. I mean, I was a kid. I was young and single.
Yeah.
And so I just acted like it was the same as my shop rate, which was nothing compared to the rate. And so I just would bank that money away. Like I didn't drive a big, nice truck or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I drove like a POS little Volkswagen Rabbit.
Sure.
It was diesel though. So,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing that every other country other than America has figured out is the diesel thing. Diesels are so much better. That's why it's like, why are we messing around with these EVs when these diesel, like these new diesel, we had a bunch of diesel cars out in Europe, rentals. They're so efficient. Yeah. They're so good on, like these diesel Volkswagens now are so good on fuel.
Back then, I would get over 50 miles to my little tank.
Crazy.
And the car was as old as I was. It was from the early 80s, and it had a gazillion miles on it, and it was still going.
You were probably driving a lot, I take it, to get out to some of these jobs?
Yeah, it was very far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would
be nothing to drive an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
One way.
Yeah.
Because it was probably, typically closer to the city?
It would depend. Some treatment plants, they were definitely closer to the city, but some of them weren't right in the city, but some of them were.
Yeah.
So,
and then the closer you get to the city, more traffic there is.
Oh, yeah.
It's brutal around there.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like traffic.
I don't like it going around Philly, honestly, because it's always a mess, it seems like.
Well, and on the East Coast, we drive a little different than they do everywhere else.
And it's just everything.
We drive angry.
Yeah, well, which I can appreciate, because if you, like the first time I drove in New York City, I had to meet people where they are, which is get really angry and just swear a bunch. And then driving in New York makes perfect sense. If you're just super angry, just hate everybody, you're like, I get it now.
And drive like you don't care if you're going to hit them.
Exactly. Drive like you don't care if you're going to hit pedestrians. You don't care if you're going to hit bicycles, other people.
Yeah.
Everything's fair game.
Exactly.
And it actually works quite well.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's crazy.
It is what I was in during my brief stint in construction. It is interesting too how, like, my hourly rate wasn't necessarily higher than any of my friends that were working, which wasn't that many people in college.
Right.
But you add on like the per diem and the overtime.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else that I was getting paid.
Per diem was like free money.
It is, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah.
It is like the paycheck. My mind was just blown by some of these paychecks. Thousands of dollars on these paychecks when I was, especially out on the railroad, just racking up the hours.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. I could not believe how much money I was making. I was making more money than my boss because he was salary.
Yeah.
And I was hourly, even though my hourly rate wasn't even that high. Yeah. And so that was when I started to realize, like, wait a minute, there's a lot here. This is pretty cool. Cause I didn't when I started in construction, I didn't really know about construction. I didn't know you could make good money in the industry, honestly. I just wanted to be in it. So it was like,
I didn't know that either, but
no,
it became obvious.
And then you get in it and you're like, whoa, this is crazy.
Well, that's honestly how I got, I don't want to say stuck, because I'm very happy to have had the life and the experience that I've had, because it's given me the ability to do what I'm doing today. Mm-hmm. But when I was back there, I had no idea where it was going to go. So
yeah. Oh, but and people do get stuck though because they adjust their cost of living to their income.
You can't do that,
especially when they're working overtime.
Especially when you're working overtime
and then
or
you're
rate work.
Fucked. Yeah. You get rate work.
And you're
whatever
working
it
on a
is.
job that is designed to come to an end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize that about construction. Like if you're running a construction company, that's one of the most difficult things is we are trying to work ourselves out of a job. And sometimes we even get paid more money to do it faster.
Sure.
And it's like, so you got to think about that when you're working through it because that was an old timer had given me some advice and he said, listen, you can live on your base paycheck. Why change it? And that was huge because when you have the resources, then you have the power to do what you want.
Which is obvious, but definitely easier said than done for some people.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some pretty nice trucks.
Well,
some pretty young people. It's like
clear. It didn't not suck.
Yeah.
Because the guys were like, nobody packed a lunch. I did, and the roach coach would come around and people were shelling out dollars and I'm there like counting my pennies.
Sure.
Literally. So
at what point did you become a business owner then?
So I worked almost a decade in the trade for other people.
As an electrician.
And I was working on a job and I had gone from the company that I had been with for most of my career and they were top notch. They really did it well. They had a well-oiled machine. They were smart about and they got me to be on jobs that you wouldn't normally get to get on. Mm-hmm. Hence why they were good at it.
Sure.
And then I went to another company, and it was very different.
Why'd you change?
I felt like there wasn't enough. I wanted more, but I didn't know what it was. Mm. And so I went into the office one day and I was like, what does the future look like to whoever was over me at that point? And he said, well, kind of more of the same. And I want to be careful. A lot of that could have been in my head.
Sure.
Because I was this young kid and I thought I knew everything. I thought I deserved more than I deserved. And so I was like, and I'd only ever worked there. Like when I was 16, I got my job there. I started as a shop boy, sweeping the floors, organizing nuts and bolts. Man, if you ever have thought about putting a screwdriver in your eyeball, do inventory in a nuts and bolts aisle for a week. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I should say that I'm sorry. There were a couple of times that I maybe dumped whatever I was sorting into the trash can. So It's just a confession to be out there. That was very wrong.
Yeah.
But I probably saved you money.
Yeah.
But so then I left there because that's all I ever knew. And so I didn't even know what other people got paid at other companies. And so I was like, well,
sure, I'm
going to go try something different. So I went to this other company. They did not do the same type of work. They offered me more money right out of the gate because they were desperate for people. Mm-hmm. And that was where I learned that money, while it's important and it matters in some ways, more money doesn't make things better. Mm-hmm. And that was really big for me because I was like, wow. I went from a place where we worked as a team and we all supported each other to a place where, man, you needed to cover your ass.
Well, it doesn't, it's not really worthwhile if where you go for the more money sucks.
Well,
is what you're.
Well, and the thing that made it suck was not even the work, even though the work was different.
Yeah.
But it was like, everybody was out to get everybody else. The culture.
Yeah.
The culture was extremely unhealthy. And I was like super sheltered and innocent in a way because I got to work for this company where their culture was healthy.
Yeah.
And it actually even does this interesting thing. We would work on job sites with other companies where their cultures weren't healthy. But our company's culture like almost built like this wall of protection or a hedge of protection around us that it would go out before us. And it's like, oh, well, I'm not going to act that way in front of this guy because he's with this company. So I was really sheltered when I got into this company, and I never even understood what backstabbing was or climbing over someone trying to get to the top.
Yeah.
And, the top is not all that cool. It's not worth climbing over people for sure.
No.
So So you asked how did I start my own business? And so I started implementing the things that I had learned from where I'd worked before, and I started gaining some success
at the new company.
At that new company, because clients would start being like, "Well, we want him to run this job." And so as I experienced that, you know, I began to struggle with, okay, well, to be totally honest, clients would come to me and they'd be like, if you would go out on your own and you would do this, we would send work your way.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll never forget. One day I came into my boss's office, and it was project manager, and I asked him for the keys to the project that I was supposed to go take a look at, and there were papers all over the place. It looked like my room as a teenager. And he's like, "Oh, they're under that stack of papers over there. Just push that." Like, it was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know how he knew where it was, except when I was a teenager, I knew where everything was. And,
sure.
And then mom would make me clean my room. But it was just, there were so many things wrong. And I was standing there and I'm like, I think I could do this better. I think that I might be able to do this and take the things that I didn't like from where I used to work, and do this better. And then, if I'm going to be totally honest, which is kind of my shtick, I always am talking with people about an honest conversation. My faith played a role into that, where I was feeling like I just kept talking with my wife and different people about it. It was one of those things where it was like, I began to feel called to do it, which sounded really stupid.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't leave me alone. And so finally one day, I got invited to bid a job. And for months, I would go to public bid openings. Public work is great because you can buy the bid packet.
Mm-hmm.
So I would get the drawings and whatnot, and I would actually work them. And then I would go to the bid opening to learn if my estimates were good.
Sure.
And so I'd write down, and it was actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I was spending money on buying bid packets. My wife can tell you stories of when we were first married. I'd be in the living room with highlighters and legal pads bidding a job, and then I'd go to the bid just to see, like, I wouldn't bid it, but I had a number in my head, and I'd be like, okay, where was I? And so I did that for like 6 months.
Well, and even now it's all on the internet.
Yeah.
It's crazy how accessible that information is. I was talking to somebody the other day from a different country and telling them, yeah, they just publish everybody's numbers when it's public work. So like, what do you mean? They just publish everybody's numbers? Like, that's the bid opening. They show you everybody's numbers so you can see exactly what everybody's pricing things for.
Yeah.
And I think the smart folks take that information and learn from it, like you were doing, because it's wildly valuable. It's one of the craziest things that happens in construction is everybody publishing. Like, to get the job, you have to have your numbers published, which is crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, the thing is, though, it's like, let's be honest about what bidding is. It's guessing.
Yeah.
Wild ass. Highly skilled guessing. And it's like, so that's why it's so helpful to look at those numbers and be like, okay, there's so many things to take into account.
Mm-hmm.
Like our estimators now, I couldn't bid a job today. Because the software that they use, the programs that they use, there's no way that I could do it. And they bid bigger jobs in a quicker amount of time than I did.
Yeah, the complexity of stuff now too.
Oh, my word!
Especially in electrical.
Yeah, it's
just the line items involved in these electrical jobs is dizzying.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
What, before you left there, you said you'd implemented some things. Why were people asking or saying that to you? Like, hey, if you went out on your own, there could be something here.
Well, the things that, and I say I implemented some things, I just did what I was always taught and brought the culture of where I came from there. So I was a project manager and I was running work when I was there. And so the cool thing when you get to become a PM, at least in the industry that I was in, you essentially are getting to run your own company.
Sure.
Yeah,
the project is a company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I would have people working on my project. And so I started to require certain things that, other PMs didn't require.
Like what?
Well, being on time, the way that you communicate with a client, even as far as the way that you show up to the job site, the way that you dress.
Yeah.
And I didn't become very popular because it was like they wouldn't want to be on my job because the rest of the company didn't require that. Now, certain people did.
Mm-hmm.
It attracted certain people to want to be on my jobs. And then it began to focus the way that we work together as a team. And so we were able to get jobs done faster. We were able to get them done better. And the client began to feel like we really cared about their work, and we did. And I think that was the biggest thing that was different, where they're like, oh, and to this day, this fascinates me. If you want to be successful in construction, it's really simple. You do what you say you will do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cannot tell you, even to this day, I have clients who will finish a couple $1 million job, and it's like, they come to me and they're like, you did what you said you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazed.
When you said you were going to do it.
They're shocked.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not all that hard.
Yeah, we didn't have to argue
Right.
about stuff. Wow.
Yeah. So
It's not that hard. I just had a conversation with one of our guys yesterday, and there were some communication issues. And I told him, like, dude, I wouldn't have even cared if you did anything last week. If you had just effectively communicated with me,
yeah,
and just said some basic shit that you didn't do,
basic shit,
we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. It's just so simple. Like, it is so simple, so elementary. This is all you have to do. The very basics. That's it. But people, for whatever reason, I don't know why they don't focus on the basics as much. Like, I think I did a podcast yesterday, and one of the questions that I was answering was, as a young leader in the construction industry, what's the best quality I could have? And the first thing that came to mind is consistent.
Yeah.
Just be consistent.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
If you can just figure out consistency, if you can just be the guy that delivers consistently, just hits base hits. You don't even have to hit home runs. You don't even have to get on second base. Just hit base hits. That's all you have to do most of the time. Just show up on time. Just look the part. Just have a great attitude. Just be motivated. Just ask questions. Like, that's all you have to do. That's all. Or even just showing up on time consistently.
That's a big one for me. Yeah.
But it's big because in a lot of ways it's rare. It's like,
well, and it communicates that you can be trusted with more.
And that was one of my main points, is that trust is actions over time.
Oh, I like that.
That's all it is. So I can trust you if you act in a consistent manner over a prolonged period of time.
Yeah.
So the more data points I have, the more I can probably trust you, because it's really, trust is me just assuming you're going to act in a certain way.
Right.
That's all it really is in the grand scheme of things. And that's, to be that trusted individual is so valuable.
Yeah.
Wildly valuable.
Well, and the only real way to get that is consistency. It doesn't mean, it's easy to sit here and talk about it and not talk about the things. It doesn't mean everything goes right.
No. No.
But if you consistently deal with it, then, like, even when you talk about, we do what we say we're going to do on a job, and, we do it on time. Well, not always, but we are communicating consistently with the client and saying, hey, this is this issue. I mean, electricians, we can't do anything without everyone else.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't wire up a wall.
Yeah, you're right in the middle, huh?
Yeah, we are right in the middle. It sucks.
Yeah.
We're always the last ones, not because we are late or we suck at it, but it's like, we can't finish things up until the other stuff is done.
Sure.
So, but if you're effectively communicating that, and I think communication is huge because everybody communicates differently.
Yeah, but there's basics of communication.
There are basics of communication
that I think a lot of people are lacking. And so if you learn the basics of communication, you're going to be way better off.
Well, it's the start of you going where you want to be.
Yeah.
I think that when I talk about everybody communicates differently, from a leader's perspective, I think that a job of a leader is to learn how everyone communicates. And I think it's really helpful being an electrician, one of the things that it showed me is I need to be able to coordinate with the drywaller. I need to be able to coordinate with the HVAC tech, the plumber, the flooring guy, all of that stuff. I got to work with them, and they might have a schedule. I remember one time I saw a job schedule, and most of the jobs that I've ever worked on and the ones that I love and like are at minimum a year-long job, and I love being able to look at a Gantt chart and see the schedule and how the things all work together. But I had to learn how to communicate with all those different trades. And I saw a job one time, and the guy gave out these schedules to the different specialty contractors, and they just had their stuff on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got into it with him. I'm like, how does that work? I can't see the rest of the picture. How do I coordinate with this person? Because I don't know if they're going to be there. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in construction, things don't go the way that they're planned. I have yet to have a job that everything fell into place the way that it should.
Sure.
Because there's so many factors.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who's in project management in industry and like the manufacturing. And we were talking about project management, and he was saying, oh, well, I've had this many jobs, hit this, and this. And I was like, well, yeah, you have an environment that's controlled.
Yeah.
I was like, let's take you to a job site, throw some mud out and, some weather and
there's always a roof with what you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I think that consistently, and you talk about the basics, being consistent. And then as you grow in leadership, the importance of being able to communicate and understand the different people in the different ways. One of the biggest things that I would say to you related to that is when I became more of a boss, and honestly, this is even more recent. I might be walking through the office and I say something to a guy, and I realized I might not be talking loud or intense or anything like that, but I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And so I make a comment to a guy, and he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I have to do that.
Or it could be like a joke.
Yeah.
Like you just say something offhand, like,
and
look at this guy. And then now he's sitting there.
I can't do that
the
anymore.
Rest of the day, like, what the fuck did he mean by that? Like, what have I done?
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And so I've had to learn, and a lot of the hard way, I've learned that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like people would leave because of they thought something based on what I said or how I said it, And so I think the importance then of learning, and even in managing teams and people, different people, like we grew up, we had different childhoods. So we look at things through a different lens and we interpret things differently.
Yeah.
We talked about your view of money, and I would say a majority of others people's view is different.
Yes.
And when you don't come from a place where you grew up experiencing money, you strive for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at things through that lens, and that's really not what you should be striving for.
Yeah.
Listen, money is a good thing. It's a tool, but that's all that it is.
And that's what I say. Like, do I want a ton of money? 100% I do, because I've seen that life. Dude, it's super cool.
Yeah.
But that's not like the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm chasing what I'm chasing. I know it'll happen at some point.
Well, and it will
if I do the right
consistent.
things. If
you're consistent.
That's it. Yeah. But it's a dichotomy too, being careful with how you communicate with people versus also understanding that not everybody's going to like how I communicate or how I do things. And that's okay too. And so, and not everybody within a company, within my company should be here.
Yeah.
If you don't have some degree of turnover, it's probably not healthy, is what I've learned from top performing organizations. Because even as an organization grows, you need different people, different skill sets.
Absolutely.
And some people are going to come with you, some people aren't. And that's okay. And so it's you do have to cater to individuals and different people and figure out how to communicate effectively with different people, meet them where they are. But then at the same time, you also have to do your thing.
I agree.
And it's quite hard.
It is.
It's very much a dichotomy.
Well, and have you experienced this at a certain point in business, we'd been in business a few years, we started to experience a modicum of success. And I'm a very visionary person. I'm always thinking 5 years ahead. That's just, my wife hates it.
Yeah.
I'll be thinking about, well, what are we doing? I'm always planning. And so as I was building a company, I would hire people and I would hire them and we'd start to work together, and it was really good. And I'd start to plan out their retirement
Sure.
at our company.
Yeah.
And it's like, like you just said, sometimes people are with your organization for a time to get you to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, the best advice I ever got was this old timer. I was sitting at some sort of event. He's sitting next to me, and I said, "Well, what was your success?" Huge electrical company. And he said, "Well, I had to learn how to run a company with this many people, and this many people, and they all were different companies."
100%.
Like, he's like, when I had 15 people, this was the type of company we were. When I had 25 people, very different company.
Yeah.
When we had 150 people, very different company.
But I think one of the biggest differences, at least I've experienced, is just the ease of communication at 15. Like 15 people, everybody knows you.
Yeah.
So and you're able to get to everybody in a personal sense. And communications, you don't have to think about it as much.
Yeah.
You don't have to like design the company as much because the values, the vision, the culture is communicated by you pretty regularly through your regular interaction with everybody. And then you start to hit this certain point, 25, 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, up to 100. I don't know. It's somewhere in that range typically, that the company just exceeds like you can't touch it all at a certain point as intimately as you once were.
Actually, after 15, that becomes extremely difficult.
I feel like it was, about, I feel like once we, exceeded about 15, 20, it started to, wow, I need to be way more deliberate about how I communicate and the frequency of communication.
Oh, yeah.
And then even understand too, like, especially with new hires, they come on and we've got Slack, and I might make a message, like talk shit to Dan in like a channel that people can see, because that's what we do. We just talk shit back and forth sometimes, which is fun. It's great.
Well, you're working in the construction industry. That is kind of one of our go-to things.
You need to.
Yeah.
You need it. It is a critical means of communication with the people that I deal with out on site. Like, without
you talked about how you have 3 minutes to get someone to be okay with you being on site.
You crack a joke.
You have to.
You're
be
there,
able to
man.
do that.
Yeah. You crack a joke. You're there. So, but they'll interpret that as like, wow, this guy's a prick. Like, what a piece of work this guy is. But through, like, I try to communicate a lot, so they get me in different ways pretty quick. Yeah. And start to hopefully understand, like, oh, that's this personality, that's the culture, this and that. So, like, not that I'm trying to be aware, oh, there's some new people here, I need to provide context for this joke. Yeah. I just need to be communicating enough so that they can pick up on who I am as quickly as possible.
Well, let's be a little real here, because you actually love to do jokes and not provide context for them.
It's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I love it.
I remember asking you one time, I think you were doing the jokes about your family that didn't exist.
Yeah, that I had to stop that because too many people thought I had a family.
Oh, it was very confusing.
Yeah. Like, I would go into, like,
not only that you had a family, but that you had some real rocky relationships.
No, like, I was like a deadbeat father.
Yes,
is really what I was. Yeah, I was just a piece of shit to my kids and wife that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would, like big time executives would be like, hey, so, like, I don't really understand the family thing. Can you explain that to me? And I'm just sitting there terrified, like, oh no, because I don't.
Now that I would have loved to have seen.
But, like, sometimes I post stuff and it's like, I don't really, who's going to see this?
Yeah.
And I forget people see this shit.
Yeah.
Which, again, is, like, why it's worked in a lot of ways. But then sometimes it comes back around and you're like, yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing to say or do or whatever it was.
Well, with as much as you post, I mean, yeah, I can understand that. And everybody's going to have an opinion about what you say. So.
Yeah. It's just how it is.
But I guess the deadbeat family dad jokes weren't maybe a good idea.
I thought it was great. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. It really helped stretch my creativity, making up all these fake storylines with me and my family.
Stretch your creativity.
Yeah, it was a creative exercise. It was like, that's what I did when I sat down on the plane. I had to come up with a story about how I was such a terrible father. Or
So-
like how my wife's mother had just died, but
Yeah.
I had to go to work.
Yeah.
Like
I remember that one specifically.
Well, that was one where I got a lot of condolences. And I'm like, all right, I can't like death off the table. Can't
Yeah.
be joking about that.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It is funny, but it's
It sounds like the jokes that I make. And I'm married. I've been married for 20 years tomorrow.
oh wow.
And my wife often will be like, I literally will be texting someone. Matter of fact, I was doing it to you yesterday. I was texting you and I was like, oh, this is funny. I'm going to send this. And she goes, no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not funny.
yeah.
She's like, he's not in your head.
Yeah.
He'll be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. But I like the dry. I'm a big fan of dry humor.
It's the best kind.
You still do you have the same company that you started back in the day?
I do.
So it's the same. It's been the same company the whole time.
It's the same name. I mean, they're different. Like when you talk about the people, like there were people that I started with that
Sure.
couldn't be in the company now.
Yeah,
So it's
but
the same
it's
company.
Same EIN.
Yeah. Same EI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long has the company been around now? Probably almost 20 years.
So next year will be 20 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We started in 05.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. How big is the company? Like how many people do you have?
We have about 30 people.
Okay. All
So-
right. So good size.
Yeah.
How did you so 30's like a good healthy business. Like I'd say, but it's still quite manageable. Did you
Yeah.
ever grow beyond that? Did it ever get out ahead of you? Or did you intentionally be like, I don't need to go
Oh man, I wish
chase data centers in Virginia?
I wish that I could say that I was really intentional and really smart about it. But
Yeah. Like how'd you get to that size over 20 years, after 20 years?
well, there was in the beginning, there was some, I used to think more people meant more money,
Yes.
meant more profitability,
Yes.
and meant success.
Yes.
That's what I thought it meant.
Which is, and that's what I'm getting at. I
Yeah.
feel like when you start a company, you're like more,
That is
more,
definitely
more,
what I
more.
thought.
If headcount's going
Yep.
up, I'm doing better.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is the absolute furthest thing from the truth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you have to provide for each one of those heads,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to make sure that the work is continuing to roll in. And I also was like, we would win work, and I'd be like, oh, I just need more people, so I would just hire more people.
Mm-hmm.
And two things happened when we did that. Culture diluted. And at that point, I was not intentional about culture. I just thought everybody knew what was in my head.
So people bring in different stuff,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
it bounces off the existing stuff. And
It
then
can
it just,
destroy the existing stuff if you're not careful.
it just mutates.
It just mutates.
Yeah.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had to scale back and then be extremely more intentional. And one of the biggest things that we've struggled with growth is maintaining efficiency.
Mm.
The bigger you get, you have to accept the fact that there's going to be inefficiencies. Like, I have a business partner, and him and I used to do jobs, and the profit margins would be better. And it would be just like, I was the project manager. He was running it from the field standpoint.
Sure.
And it was like, and we knew each other, and we worked in sync, and we could do things that you just can't do when you have a project manager, a foreman, and then a crew of guys. And so we grew too fast. We have and the other big thing that I had to learn was, when the work runs out, I have to let people go.
Yeah.
That was actually probably the most devastating, expensive, hard thing that I've ever learned, because I didn't let people go at the right time.
Sure.
And so I came to a place where I had to let them go.
Yeah.
And I remember
been there.
Yeah, nobody listens to this, right? Because I don't want to say some of these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
No.
My partner and I often joke about, and it was early on in our start, and we didn't let people go. And the company that we both came from the same company. He left at a different time than I did, but they would never lay anybody off. Now, they had been in business for 60 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they had figured out the rhythm,
Sure.
and
And they have a balance sheet.
they have a balance sheet.
Yeah.
And so we just thought, well, that's what you do. You just pay people to work around the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so we paid some of our guys to work on hanging some garage doors at our shop. And the joke still to this day is, wow, that's a $30,000 garage door hang job.
Well, and there's like this pride in, we've never let anybody go.
Well,
which I understand. Ego. Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
But then it fools a lot of people into thinking, well, I'm a failure if I do that. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Which then leads you to keeping people on.
It drives you to failure.
Which then drives you to failure.
Yeah.
Which then jeopardizes everybody.
Yeah.
Not just a select few.
You can go out of business for not enough work, and you can go out of business for too much work.
Yeah.
And all for the same reason. And what you're talking about is what it drives you to. Cash flow is the lifeblood of any business.
Yeah.
That's what pumps through the veins. It's how you keep the lights on. Like at my home, when things get tight, well, we can cancel our cable subscription, or we can turn, my wife is an electricity Nazi.
Yeah.
Like she turns lights off behind me, and she's all over that.
My mom was just on my ass growing up. I had this aquarium that was, I was probably half the power bill at the house. No joke. It was sickening how, like, I had this light that was just like the sun, like a collapsed sun hanging from my bedroom.
Well, and back then it was not efficient. I can tell you that.
It must have been like 700 watts, this light, since you're an electrician. Maybe that means something to you.
It does. I don't know what it is anymore, but
yeah, but like a heavy duty light that would then heat up the water. So then I needed a 3/4 horsepower chiller to cool the water down, and then would just make my room super, super hot. So then I'd turn the air conditioning down, but then my mom would come through like, hey, that thing doesn't go below 80. And I'm like, all right, it doesn't go below 80. And then she'd go to bed. I'd be out there cranking that thing down. Because there's no way in hell I'm sleeping at 80 degrees. Like, I can't sleep while I'm sweating. There's no way.
Oh, my word.
Anyway.
That's funny.
Back to cash flow.
Yeah. Well, you asked, have we ever experienced that? I thought that more people meant more success.
Yeah.
And the wrong people mean the exact opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had won a lot of work. So I just brought on warm bodies. I used to hear people talk about, well, we need warm bodies.
Yeah.
That is bullshit.
Yeah. That's like one of the worst.
It is.
Worst sayings.
I mean, if that warm body actually destroys the work that 2 other people or 3 other people do, then that doesn't work.
That term drives me nuts for so many reasons. Like, does that body have a name? Do they have a family? Do they have kids? Are they married? Like, what do they do?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we identify people as a little bit more than like a body?
And a mouth breather.
Yeah. We got to a point where we hired too many people and we had to lay people off. And I still have shame from it. It's like over 2 years. I'm still sitting here feeling like an asshole some days, just feeling like a complete failure.
Yeah.
And that's partially because you always see we've never let anybody go. We've never laid people off, and you see the people on like LinkedIn that were just laid off and they're so hurt by it, rightly so. And then you realize like, fuck, I'm the guy that just did that.
Yeah.
And my ignorance jeopardized these people, their families, their livelihood. And you can spiral pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. It's
but
really hard.
It was scaling back was one of the best things we've done as a business to date.
I think for me, when it happened to me, you have to look at, it's a weird analogy, but I'll use it. I used to, when I was a kid, I'd watch these World War II movies, and I forget what movie it was. It was John Wayne. He was on a ship,
nice,
in the Pacific, and the ship got hit by something. And so your business is the ship. You got people in the ship, just like John Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
He had to close a bulkhead, and there were still men on the other side.
The classic conundrum.
And so, it was this big ordeal. And here's the deal. You're the CEO. You're the captain.
Mm-hmm.
In your case, the chief dirt nerd.
Yeah.
And so that's your responsibility. And so in this movie, he had to decide, was the whole ship going to sink and everyone die?
Yeah.
Or am I going to seal these men in that compartment? Now, listen, in business, it's very different. We're not killing anybody.
Yeah.
We live in a country where they can go get a job. There is work out there. They can do that. But in business, you have to make that decision sometimes for the good of the organization that maybe you need to let these people go. And that was the thing that I learned that actually changed. And you talk about the shame of it. I don't want to talk about it even today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm talking about it because I think it's something that you bring up that's important, because if you're starting a business and you think that you're never going to lay people off, one, you're wrong. And two, it will, if you think that way, it's going to rush you to it.
Well, and I was also enamored by we've retained everybody. And that's also one of the worst. I'm so glad I'm not in that camp anymore. I'm really proud of who we have here. We have a great group of people.
Yeah.
But there's also people, they serve the business. We serve them.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it could be mutual. Hey, not working out for either one of us. It could be us having to tell them, hey, you've got to go.
Yeah.
Or it could be them telling us, hey, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And again, if that's not happening as well, it's not a healthy organization.
Do you think when you make that statement, and I love that you're talking about this, because I think that's the next phase of what you're talking about. Laying people off is hard.
Yeah.
And not hiring, not looking at people are success, meaning not, I have 150 people. It's not about how many people you have, but you're talking about when people don't fit the organization and them having to leave. I think that's another thing where it's like when people leave, turnover.
Yeah.
We tend to look at it and be like, oh, wow, you have turnover.
Oh, it's just bad.
It's bad.
Just negative.
Yeah.
It's like,
but it doesn't mean
no.
that. Because doesn't turnover mean, like the way that you're talking about, listen, if you have high turnover because you have a shitty business and a shitty culture, that's a thing.
That is a thing.
But if you have turnover because you're growing, and honestly, the faster that you grow, the more turnover you're going to have. Well, because those businesses change.
Yeah, but I'll fall into the trap like everybody else. I'll see some turnover for some companies on like LinkedIn, like, oh wow, a key person left. Like, man, they must not have their shit together. Yeah. And then I like slap myself, like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, they're probably like, I don't know, maybe it was bad, but no, they're probably like, I've been watching them grow. They're iterating.
Yeah.
And part of that is iterating with people, with the team, because a business is really just nothing but people.
That's all it is.
So to grow and change, the existing people have to grow and change, and everybody doesn't grow and change. It doesn't work that way. And some people don't want to grow and change. They want, like we started as a fun little media company.
Yeah.
And then grew up into this creative company. And we had like a lot of our core people in the early days. That's what they signed up for.
Yeah.
Now we're singing a totally different fucking tune, which is fine. That's what we need to sing. And some people have come along with that because, hey, okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't see myself doing this, but I want to be a part of this. Other people have been like, no, I wanted to do this. I'm like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. It's not even slightly personal, but it does become personal as well.
It does.
and you so badly just want to be like, I promise you, this is not personal, but people's work and their employment status and their job, like that's a very personal thing.
It is.
So I can say it's not personal all day long.
Yeah.
No, it's fucking personal.
Yeah.
And so it's just something, it's something I've had to reconcile because I was so proud of us having no turnover for the first few years. And then, boy, have we had some fucking turnover over the past few years. Oh, boy, have we had some. But I've never been happier with our team and where we are. And we had to go through it, which I'm really grateful for. And we're still going through it. It's still just a natural part of, we're hiring people, and I'm almost happy when someone washes out within the first 90 days. Cool. Hey, all right, that's good.
Actually, if you're having that happen in the first 90 days, that is good.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
I'm glad
it's not
we
6
caught
months a year later.
Yeah. I'm glad it's not 6 months a year later saying, we hired the wrong individual for this role. And okay, it's now got to a point where we've got to do something about it.
Right.
Which is another indicator to me. It's like, okay, we're learning. And then what did we learn from this? So we don't do it again. Like, let's not keep repeating this.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, it's like an indication that, all right, we're learning. We're getting a little healthier here.
Yeah.
But then the goalposts are always changing.
They do.
So
They all like just like that old timer told me I had to learn how to run a company at this size, and this size.
yeah.
To talk about it. This is your podcast. You said something there that I find really interesting as I've watched you, because you've invited all of us in construction to have a window into what you're doing.
Yes.
And
yes.
There are some of us like myself who are like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm on social media and I don't like that window. But you're talking about your turnover and everything. Everyone sees that.
Yeah. It there's definitely downsides to it. There's probably people talking about what we're doing all the time. But honestly, I very rarely do I see any criticism or notice any criticism. I maybe I have it tuned out. Maybe I'm just not looking for it. I don't know what it is. But I just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to keep being honest and transparent. One of our values is transparency wins.
Yeah.
And it's done me a lot of good. Like we just hired a young writer and she said, man, I really appreciated your post the other day about, what was it? It might have been about running out of money or laying people off or something like that. So one of these topics that's not a fun topic to talk about. And she said, I really, I think it was running out of money, like nearly missing payroll. That's what it was.
Yeah. Because
we went through a period where, I could count on my hand the times that we nearly fucking missed payroll in a 6-month period, which was just brutal.
Yeah.
And
that's a fun thing to experience, isn't it?
No, I don't. I never want to be there again. I've been there. Okay, I have the story. I can be a business owner who says, nearly missing payroll, huh?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can say it. I don't need to say it multiple times. I have that merit badge. Like, great, good for me.
Yeah.
And she said, I really appreciate your honesty. And it makes me excited to come to work here.
Wow.
And I was like, why would that? But it's because it's like I'm not bullshitting you.
Yeah.
And I've screwed up. Yeah, I'm in my 20s. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out who I am as a man, who I am a leader, who I am as a business person, so on and so forth. I'm trying to figure it out, like you.
Yeah.
And I think that resonates with the right kind of person. So it's ironically allowed us to bring in the right kind of people.
Yeah.
And then, two, I just let the company speak for itself. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to focus on building the company. You can criticize all day long, but it's like, in a few weeks, we're going to have over, probably 1,200 people.
That's pretty
1,200
awesome.
industry leaders at our second event.
Yeah.
It's like, you tell me it's not working. Like, and not to be, I can be a little cocky about it because it's like, I know how much effort we've put in to make that happen.
Right.
And so look at that room and tell me we're on the wrong fucking path.
Yeah.
You can't do that because these are some of the best people in that room, some of the best people in the industry that are all in the same spot because of what we're putting together here. And we haven't got it right. We haven't always done the right thing. I have a lot of shame for some of the stupid things I've done or the stupid things I haven't done, but we're here, we're on the right path, and we're just going to stay on the fucking course. And if you want to talk shit about it, by all means, have at it, because I'm not even thinking about you. Like, and that's what I love too. You are here looking at my stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the fuck you are. Which I love. Like, and that's and maybe that's just a made up narrative in my head, but it's like, I've never even had a thought about you. Yeah. Yet you're watching me every day. Love it.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yeah.
Have a front row seat. Like,
well, I wonder even some of those people, you've chosen to be public and upfront. I mean, what one of is it your core value or goal? Transparency wins.
Yeah. Core value. Yeah.
And it's like you are being transparent in what you're doing. And I have a couple of companies and one of them is more public than the other. And it's like, I get to see it from both sides.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I really wonder if other companies were more upfront on LinkedIn and whatnot about their turnover, but what would that look like? Are you really all that different?
Yeah.
Because every company has turnover. And I would say, we talked about it. There is a balance of, are you doing things wrong? Or there's a balance of you're growing. And honestly, the faster that you grow, the more turnover that you're going to have. Because people, like you said, are going to realize, I don't know that fits for me.
Yeah.
Or you might realize that they don't fit.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if the industry was honest about a lot of stuff. and I understand you can't. I wish I could be more honest. And if it weren't for lawyers, I could be a lot more honest.
Yeah.
And there's like, I can talk about the payroll thing right now because we're not in that season anymore.
Right.
I couldn't talk about it during.
Well, I don't know how wise it would have been to talk about it during.
Well, it would not have been wise.
You want to talk about your mountaintops when you're but that's when you talk about the valley.
But that's the irony of it is like I can't talk about it when it's happening because I don't want to cause panic with our people. That would be the worst thing for business. I'm trying to get customers who need to trust that I'm going to be able to serve them into the future. Like that's two very different things. But then you also, in a way, feel deceitful because it's like you're trying to be, and we weren't. We're probably more transparent with our people than we should have been.
Yeah.
Which did cause plenty of internal strife.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we did because it's like, here's where we are. Now, I don't think I ever said, it's like, we're like 4 days out from just not having dollars. But then you get through it and then it's so painful. You just want to go lock it in a box.
Yeah.
And then black box and never talk about it again.
Oh, yeah.
But then now you're one of the guys furthering the image of business that is, it's just great.
Yeah.
No, we haven't done anything wrong. We're good, man.
Yeah.
We're good. We've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And then other people like me who are struggling or looking around like, am I the only asshole that doesn't have this figured out? But in reality, no one has it figured out. But everybody's, no, it's all great. It's all like scroll LinkedIn.
Yeah.
How much positive stuff do you see?
Yeah.
How much like, nearly missed payroll last week.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Like, you're not going to see that.
No. I mean, you're really leaning into something deeper there where it's like we present this fake persona of what's going on. I've had a little bit of experience with that in recent months, just with what we're doing at Blackline and people seeing me for the first time. It's like everybody also thinks that it's easy and you're rolling in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody just asked me yesterday or the day before, like, hey, have you thought about opening an office in Europe yet? I'm like, the fuck do you think this is? Like, what? I'm like, I just got a quote for new doors in the office for a few $1,000s. And I'm like, I'm going to have to put that off a few months. Hey, this isn't that kind of program.
I was rather disappointed when the Bill Witt jet didn't come to pick me up.
Give me a few more years.
Okay.
But, where was I going to go with that? I think the construction industry is also guilty of this because they need to hire people.
Mm-hmm.
And as you get more and more desperate, you're willing to say whatever.
Yeah.
And not that it's disingenuous because there is camaraderie.
Yeah.
There is a great sense of purpose. You can make a lot of money. You are working around big equipment, this and that. From a recruiting standpoint, if you go look at the image presented, it is not always accurate. And I think this is when I was looking into the U.S. military, there's one branch meeting recruitment goals, and that's the U.S. Marines. The U.S. Marines, notoriously, is the one you don't really want to go into because they're the grunts, right?
Yeah.
But that's why they're not missing recruiting goals because they're being honest with, hey, we're not top of the food chain. We don't want to be. Someone needs to be U.S. Marine. So if you're down with that, you're down to be in the shit, come on down. And there's and then
imagine who you're going to get when they show up and they recognize that you were honest with them. There it is.
Yes,
that's the building of a team.
Yes, and so, but in construction, I think what's happening is one, we're making it look prettier than it is, and I'm guilty of that. I'm part of the problem. But I don't stage shit.
Yeah,
I make it look prettier just by, I guess, my eye. Or whatever, but it's all just, I don't.
Well, even when you take a photo, you are editing it before you take it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Our team has ruined. I love movies.
Yeah,
they've ruined them for me.
Yeah, but
like it's totally ruined.
One, the image of the industry I don't think is being painted in the most accurate light, because then like turnover is people under the age of 25 in construction is over 60%.
Wow.
So over 60%. So over 1 in 2 that come into the industry bounce right back out. Because I think that's part of it, is they're being sold a bill of goods. They come in.
Yeah.
They have a lot of other options.
Yeah.
According to the Biden-Harris administration, we have the best job market in world history, which is true in some senses, which is complete dog shit in other senses. But that's a different conversation.
Getting your election talk in, I like that.
Well, but yeah. You close the country down, you open it back up. Go figure. Job growth. It's incredible. But they do have a lot of options. So then they just bounce right back out. And then 2, and I'm starting to lean into this, and I'm going to talk about the summit. It's like, we're going to put up a picture, everybody's smiling. People are killing themselves over here in record numbers.
Yeah.
People are dying by overdose.
Yeah.
Opiate overdose, record numbers. Alcoholism, rampant.
Yeah.
Divorce, rampant. There's all these things over here, but like that's not really our problem. That's a personal thing. That's their thing. I can't do anything about that. They're just drug addicts.
Where do people spend most of their life? At work.
I struggle with it a little bit. And I've got to eat my own dog food. I've got to make an organization. Like, I've got to make sure we're doing the right thing here. And there's a lot of things that we're not, that we need to, that we're working on. But, I think in a way the industry is falling victim to this exact same thing, which does no one. And the most ironic thing about painting the industry in a very certain way that I see it painted a lot of times is that it's disrespectful to the people in the industry. And that is the most ironic thing about it, is you have these people in the office, in the recruiting department, and they're just doing their job. They're painting the industry in a certain way, or these campaigns or whatever, painting the industry in a certain way. Then people in the field are seeing it. They're calling bullshit, man.
Yeah. I've
been standing waist deep in shit today.
Yeah.
And it's cold. It's miserable. And I'm not happy to be here today.
Yeah.
But I'm here. I'm doing my job. Like, that's what this is really like. And then they get these young kids that show up that then they start to resent these young kids because, well, they're not worth anything. They just come in, they think it's going to be something, then they bounce right back out. It's like, well,
that's why carpet walkers should be in charge of what's being posted. I mean,
well,
and that's coming from a carpet walker.
Yeah, so. I am the biggest carpet walker out there. Yeah. Pencil pusher over here. Yeah. And I don't know the answer. I think the industry needs to lean into what it is and who it is rather than try to be something it's not.
Well, I think that's the importance of not letting, I talk about how the team has ruined movies for me. It's because I never saw what was behind the lens before.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be sitting down as a family watching a movie and I'm like, oh, okay, so there's a gaff over here. I can see these things and I'm like, oh, it just makes it different. But the importance of making sure that what we're bringing through the lens, like you need to put some effort into making it look right and good, but that you're bringing through the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, and that's where it's like, and I actually think from a marketing standpoint, and I am not a marketing guy by no means, but I think people are hungry for the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're hungry for authenticity more than ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the next generation of young people that are coming up, they are desperate just to hear real and authentic conversations. They're desperate to have a job and to know really, truly what it is.
Well, and that's what drew me in. That's one of the big things that drew me into construction. It's like, oh, this isn't politically correct.
Yeah.
Oh, we can talk shit. Like, like this is gritty and hard and fucking miserable some days. Like I fell in love with that. I was living in the country clubs. The places that I was at as a kid were wild because I've gone back as an adult and I can't even believe that I was in a place like this. It's just mind boggling. I never want to go back to that stuff because I found this world because there's so much bullshit in that world. It's like, I want to get away from that. And so a lot of people trying to recruit the next generation, they're like, oh yeah, they love technology and, they want to talk about their feelings and they love equality. We need to really focus on these things. And it's like, maybe, but I don't. I just like that everybody's just doing their job.
Yeah.
I just like that everybody's just working.
Yeah.
I just like while they're working, while they're miserable, they're talking some shit.
Yeah.
I like that because this is the only place in society I can find that. I can go find the bullshit elsewhere. I can go find the beanbags. I can go find all that everywhere else. Not uncommon.
Do you know why that is in the trades? This is fascinating to me. It's a real question. Do you know why that is? Because you can't hide shit in what we do. If you don't do your job, all of you're on a job site. You know the guy who doesn't do his job.
Yeah.
That, if you don't do it, you're not going to keep it. And doesn't mean that you'll get fired, but the team will work around you or without you.
Yeah.
You can't hide. I love it when someone comes on the job and they try to talk like they know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. I've made that mistake too many times.
Well, in the electrical world, we have 30,000 different parts that we use, probably way beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't call any of them by the name that they are in the book.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, we call things, like, I don't want to say them because we're also perverts in the way that we name things.
Yeah.
But, it's like, we call things, it's a peckerhead or it's a 4-inch.
Or even the mouse thing.
The mouse, that's not what it's called.
That's probably not the technical
Thanks
term.
for saving me from where I was going there. I appreciate that.
I'll bring it back. Yeah.
But you can't hide that. And you only learn that stuff by doing the work.
Yes.
And so that's the part that I'm saying, it's like in the trades, it is the one place where we can't do those things. Like, what is the most important thing on a job? It's that it gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't get done by us talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what drives me nuts with here we do safety. It's like, no, you don't do fucking safety. You build stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's no company, safety is not the priority.
Yeah.
Building stuff pays the bills.
That's right. Yeah.
We're building stuff.
Yeah.
We want to do it safely, and that's really important. But building stuff is number one. When did we get away from that? Even that drives me nuts. It's like, no. That cannot be the priority. If safety was the priority, and this is a can of fucking worms that I'm opening right now. But if safety was the priority, no one would be here.
Right.
We wouldn't be building. We would have stayed home.
That's exactly
because
right.
we're a lot safer at home. Safer.
Have you ever heard the term safety third?
Yeah. Yes. Which I like. That's like the core argument.
Oh, it is
that Mike Rowe makes.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, but yeah, it's like, but to me, as a young person, it's like, you're lying to me.
Yeah.
I feel like you are lying to me because I don't feel like you really care. Like, my safety is the most important thing for you.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that, Mr. Corporate Safety Guy. Yeah. I'm so sorry, but I'm not buying it. And two, why are you taking my responsibility for me as an individual?
Right.
Why are you taking that from me?
Well, it's the worst possible thing to do.
Yes.
What's there's a movie called Black Hawk Down. I love this. In the scene of the movie, they're going through the food line or whatever. And this officer says to this special operator, I think it's Delta Force or something like that, who's in line, has his gun hanging on his side. He's like, dude, your safety's not on.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, this is my safety. And points to his finger, And it's like, we get into this place where it's like, we get so, and he was stating in that statement, I'm aware of where my gun is. I know where it's pointed. I know what it is. I am safe. I am responsible for me and this gun.
Yes.
And so it's like when we take that away from people and you talk about even the corporate safety, I've been on some pretty big projects and oh man, we're really going to do this with safety guys. Corporate safety guys can get so powerful
Yeah.
that they lose
Boy.
all reality, and it actually makes the job less safe.
That's the biggest irony about it. Yes. Yeah, because then it's like, oh, okay. All right. So you're in charge of our safety. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You can have it, dude.
Yeah.
You can have it. Now I'm not going to take ownership of anything. Or like everybody stop work authority. I'm not going to stop work. Are you kidding me? Like, what are you talking about? There's no way I'm going to stop work. Like and even like one of the things that drives me nuts is like a glove policy, like 100% gloves all the time. It's like, I get it. Yeah. People are cutting their fucking fingers, but all that says to me, I really resent it, because all that says to me is we don't think you're smart enough to know when to put gloves on or not.
Yeah.
So we don't trust you.
So you just wear them all the time.
Even enough to know when to put gloves on or not. So yeah, you're going to wear it all the time. Like you're a fucking 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's a very common policy.
Yeah.
So I am out here criticizing a very common policy with like every big construction company right now.
Aaron Witt is criticizing that, not me.
Yeah, not you. But and like I understand it. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. But that's my read on it. And then I really resent. It creates this resentment within me, even with that understanding. That is like, wow, you just think like I'm a child. Okay, I'll act like a child then. And that's not what I do. I don't.
No, but a majority.
I put my gloves on. I'm like, all right.
Some people do.
Yeah, I'm not gonna win this fucking battle with Mr. Mega Corporation. I don't think they really care about me, but in my opinion, but some people do.
Yeah,
and yes, and then that resentment makes them less safe, and the people around them less safe.
Well, and that's just it. When an individual on a job site is less safe, then everyone around that individual is not safe as well.
Yes. So I don't know how we got onto the criticizing.
We did.
Very common. Yeah,
we did.
Yeah.
You were joking about your family that doesn't exist, and then you went into criticizing safety guys.
This went off the rails. Let me go to the bathroom, and we'll recalibrate here, because I do want to get into Blackline specifically. Okay. So why does an electrical contractor that has a pretty good thing going decide to start a creative company? We've alluded to it.
Yeah. Why? That's a great question.
I would have told you, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, you would have been very, very wise to say that. Well, it didn't start as a creative company. Earlier we were talking and you said, you pull at a string.
Yeah.
And it starts to, and so Blackline started in 2021. Our company had continued to grow, and it started out of, we were doing some design work, and we had made some investments in some technology and whatnot that made our designs more appealing to more people, but we didn't always want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So was at a meeting with a contractor. They wanted us to do a job. And I said, well, we can design it. And he's like, well, you can't design it with your name. No one else will bid it. And so I wish that it was more creative than this, but like I said, I'm always thinking ahead. And so my partner and I always are thinking of names that we think are good, because I think a name matters a lot.
But you're talking to a guy that put his last name in the company.
Yeah, so, I've already criticized you.
I'm not Mr. Creative over here. Yeah.
Well, I think that names matter a lot. And so I had this name in my head. We'd already done some stuff with it. And so I just said to the guy at lunch, I was like, hey, just email Blackline. That's actually our design company. Now, you talk about being truthful. I was literally making that decision to make it our design company in that moment, texting our controller saying, hey, buy this domain right now, create an email in the next 30 minutes. Did all of that. So that's how it got started. So we were doing design work and whatnot. And then as we began as a company to invest into people through 2020 in culture and things like that, we realized, and through that investing in people, we'd also started investing in the creative space.
Mm-hmm.
Because for our team, we wanted to communicate, this is who we are.
Sure.
And I experienced some real positives with that, meaning you talk about turnover. One of the best ways that I've found to deal with turnover is to advertise and communicate who I am.
Mm.
Because then you see me before you meet me,
Mm-hmm.
and our company, you see them before you meet them. And it's like, what it began to do was not only did it start to attract people to our company, but as the more we communicated, it kept the other people away that didn't align with what we were wanting to do or how we were wanting to do it. And so we were investing in that. And then I was like, well, we can do this for other people. And we began to realize, and what made it a creative company, honestly, was BuildWit partially before I ever even met you.
Mm.
And that was, I was watching you post things about Berg, who's a contractor local to where I live.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I thought it was Berg, which means you were doing your job right. I didn't even know that it was BuildWit.
Sure.
And so I was looking at those things and seeing what they were posting, and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. Why isn't he doing that for my trade?
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest, it started to piss me off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I forget if you posted something or if you said something. But I just began to feel like, well, if I want this to be done, then we need to do this. So we pulled together our resources and we started a company in the creative space, and combined some training with it as well before I even really knew that that's where you were going.
Yeah.
And we began to do that in the creative space and tell people stories so that we could kind of lift the view of the trades and be like, everything that you've talked about, about being honest with people, letting them know where it's at. I really truly believe that is the most effective thing to getting people into the trades.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Marines. If we're telling a story, we want to tell the truth
Mm-hmm.
of that story because we've seen the effectiveness of it and we want to continue to do that. And so we started to do that, and it's been like, not a roller coaster. It's been more of like we launched a rocket, and I'm still kind of hanging on. I've gotten burned.
Sure.
Creative business is very different than construction.
Uh-huh.
And the people in creative, the things that they can do are just absolutely amazing.
It blows my mind every day.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And, we had people on our team who were involved in Super Bowl commercials and our little creative company
Mm-hmm.
doing things for contractors and their skill, all that stuff. With that, the creative world is so different than construction and managing people. I love creatives and I hate creatives.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can be a creative. Like, I think we all are creative in our own little ways.
I think so too.
And so I even hate that term, creative.
But you just want to sometimes probably say, like, you coming from the construction world, can you just shut up and do your job?
Yes.
Something you can say in construction, but you can't say in the creative world.
Yes.
I've never said that, but it's like, I know that's in construction. Just, Jimmy, shut the fuck up.
Well,
just do your job. Because I've been told that many times over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have a team that aligns very much with what we're doing. And they came to Blackline. So you gave us the format.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not your typical agency. We're not the agency that I hired to do our stuff.
Yeah.
And we try to train our people, and even our people that come to work with us, they want to lift the view of the skilled trades. That's what they want to do. So that's a different type of creative right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's the power of mission, because that I think that's how we've attracted just some brilliant people.
Yeah.
As they get on board with that mission.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, I've never had that focus before. I've always been over here. But having this focus is incredible. And then once they get into the industry and start to see it, I see them fall in love with it too. And then they apply their creative horsepower to it.
Oh, my word.
Oh, this is
Which
neat.
has never really existed in our industry before.
No, but it's not like people give me way more credit than I deserve. It's like, there's nothing innovative about it. Like, it's happened in most other industries.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking at cars. It's like, why are cars so sexy? Because there's a lot of money put into imagery and production value for cars for the sake of sales. It's like, why can't we do that for equipment?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why can't we?
That's and you can.
Why can't we do that for trades overall? It's like, Yeah, why can't we? The same principles apply.
Yeah. Well, and they're really simple. But it even comes back to some of the things that you said. Consistency.
Yeah.
If you're consistent about it, and I want to be really clear. I think that in construction, we have this thing that we do, and I'm guilty of this even towards creatives. So I want to put this out there. On construction, we judge the other trades too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get, I mean, you go on Instagram, you can find some great memes about electricians and no one will listen to anything I have to say anymore. You know, we judge everybody and it's like, it's because we don't know. You know, we don't know. So like, it's
tribal.
What'd you say?
It's tribal too.
Yeah.
Part of the electrician tribe.
But like, I am guilty of when we would hire a creative agency and they would come in and do a video for us. And I'd be like, it costs how much?
Yeah.
For 3 minutes?
Yeah.
And it's like, until I saw the work that goes into it, and let me be really clear, I can't do what they do.
Nope, I can't either.
We have this one gentleman, and he's doing editing, and I'm like, I think I would stab myself in the eye with a screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not much of a thought. I would. There's no doubt that I can't. Not only can I physically not do it, but even if I could, we do a lot of driving with our job, and guys will be in the back of a Bronco editing footage while we're driving.
Yeah.
I would be puking.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know how they do that. So all of that to say, it started with wanting to lift the view of the trades within our organization. And then it was like, wow, there's something here. And just like, and I don't know if we were talking about this on the podcast or not, but just like, you know, I started with different businesses when I was younger. And it's like, this is something I think that can help this, and it can kind of build them together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become much more than just the company that I founded being successful. I actually believe that the trades matter, and for a rather non-noble reason. I think that there's a huge deficit in people, in skill. I'm already experiencing things in my life where I have to wait for things like I've never had to wait for things before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm an electrician by trade. One of the big things over the past couple of years, and only now are we beginning to see some slight change, but the supply chain issues have been insane.
Yeah.
Never in my life would you order a switchgear and they would be like, and we'll ship that. We don't know when.
Yeah.
Like it might be a couple of years, they'll say.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to like it.
Hey, yeah. That's exactly how it goes.
Yeah.
But it's like, but that's partially because of the situation. We haven't done a good job of talking about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And Blackline, when I say we want to lift the view of the skilled trades, it's like, if people don't see it, then how do they know? And so I've fallen in love with creatives and the way that they can tell the story of that man or woman that's in the ditch on the day that you talked about where they're in the mud and their job sucks and they hate it that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But do you know what is worth telling that part of the story for? Is if they do that consistently, it's not about the day. It's about the overall. And if we tell that overall story, you'll see, well, that's what that day is. But let's talk about what it is when we build shit.
Yeah.
When we finish a project, when we've built a building, I still do it to this day and my kids are sick of it.
Yeah,
but I drive by and I'm like, Dad built that.
Yeah.
You know, my son's like, you're an electrician, you don't build anything, Dad. And so, but I mean, we come together and it does something to you. And it's like, so that day that I was in the mud, and I think it's a great metaphor for life. There are going to be days where you hate life. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the trait, it's very human.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a very human profession.
I agree.
It aligns quite nicely with human nature, which is why I'm so optimistic, because I think there's a lot of other careers out there that don't at all align with human nature, that I think have been put on these pedestals, that I think people are starting to find out are complete nonsense. It's like, wow, this whole industry doesn't create any value whatsoever. Yeah. And I'm making all this money, but I am completely miserable. And I don't envy those people.
Yeah.
You're building this agency, and then you've also, I feel like people most know the Blackline name for the podcast, which you've gone all in on. I appreciate it.
It's
I'm
an
like,
interesting term.
Well, I do. I'm like, I think about it all the time. I'm kind of lazy. I want people to come to me because I'm always traveling. Then it's nice to have people here and host them, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out. But you've been all over now.
Well,
it's been quite a few episodes as well.
Probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do.
Yeah, well, you bit that one off. I knew exactly what you were getting yourself into.
Yeah,
and I was
quiet.
like, oh man, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into. Like, I wish him the best. I hope it works, and it's obviously worked.
I still remember at Dirt World, I'm asking you, hey, can we do this? And you're like, go for it, sucker.
Yeah. But I was like, man, there's a reason why I haven't done it, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
I can appreciate it.
Well, you talk about all in. I think if you're going to do something that's going to succeed, I read a book this past year called Burn the Boats.
Oh, nice.
And it's a great book. And if you're going to go at something halfway, you're literally saying, well, I'm going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do things if they don't have purpose or value.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started the line, and that even came out of the creatives on our team. Literally, I would be talking and having these conversations about why we're doing this. And they're like, why aren't you like recording that and having those conversations with other people?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is the Line podcast is all it's about is having real and honest conversations like we would have on the job with real people.
Yeah, that we just normally have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, so we the agency piece helps that. So sometimes I'll travel with the team and they're doing a project and we'll line up some podcasts with that.
Sure.
It has been really difficult as far as it's a big time investment. It's a lot of work. I think one day I did 8 podcasts in one day.
8.
That was a lot.
Holy shit. I think I've done like 4 or 5 and I was toast.
Yeah.
8.
I was definitely toast.
Damn.
And it was, and they weren't all like super long. So that was helpful, but they weren't all not super long either.
Yeah.
But it was, I also think and I said this to you earlier, the part for me that it's been a huge return is the amount of knowledge that I've been able to learn. I get to sit down in the room with these people that there's no other way that I would get to sit with them.
No, it to me, the podcasting thing, it is like the most selfish thing I do.
Yeah.
It's for me first and foremost. Yeah. I love it. It's incredible.
It is pretty selfish. You made me come here to Nashville.
Yes.
So
yeah. And your wife's downtown right now, probably just hating it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she's hating.
Yeah,
I doubt it.
Yeah. No. It's just so cool, and that's in a way that it bums me out. So, like the trend now is using podcasts as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Like we we're a company. We need a podcast. Like they press the podcast button. This is really going to do it for us. It's like that's not what it should be. And it's like you're robbing yourself of the value of it first and foremost. It should just be. I've tried, and I've lost my way sometimes too. We've tried to use it as a tool, and I've had, especially this year, like claw it back. Hey, I just want to talk to people I want to talk to.
Yeah.
I just want to enjoy it. I just want to have some fun. And that's why we're doing it in person now, almost always as well, because I just don't have fun remotely. Yeah. It's like a job when I have to do it remote. It's inhuman. It doesn't fill me up.
There's just something about talking with someone face to face.
Yeah. It's just so matter of fact when it's on a computer. When I can do this, it's so much more fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
Which then I hope comes across when people listen. I don't know.
I think it does. I mean, that's the cool part about when you talk about other people who are coming at it from a marketing standpoint. Here's the deal. 9 times out of 10, if you're not trying to market authenticity and honesty, 9 times out of 10, if you're just doing it because that's what you want to be and that's who you are, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to do that.
Yeah.
If you're trying to manufacture something that isn't there, you're not going to succeed.
Well, and that's why I've only focused on the Dirt World.
Yeah.
Everybody's always like, oh, you should go do this. You should go do that. I'm like, I don't know. I probably would do well, but it doesn't get me going. So I don't want to do it. Right. Like, I'm not doing this just to do it. Right. I just, like, how do you pick the projects you go to? Whatever I find is cool. Yeah. I don't know. Like, wherever I want to go. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's most everything we do is unpaid. And I'm just like, the recent videos we just did were Pilbara, Western Australia. That's somewhere I've always wanted to go since high school. I've just like, I can picture the photographs that I've been just enamored by. It's like these big excavators digging on Mars, this bright orange red earth, like iron ore. How cool is that? How like that's natural resources at its like most raw, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and the whole workforce has to fly in by plane, and they live on the mine, and the whole thing's just nuts. And it's like, that's what I want to go see.
Yeah.
But it's driven some people nuts. It's like, why don't you go outside the dirt world? It's like, I don't know. There's legitimate reasons for it.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't, because it provided an opportunity for us to do something at Blackline,
which I have zero qualms with. That's always my response. Like, I don't know, why don't you go do it? Like, if I had $1 for every time someone said you should go do this for ag, it's like, you're right, I should, but I don't want to. So how about you be the guy? Like, how about you be the girl? I don't know. Do it for ag. Cool. Yeah. So I'm it's been fun watching you guys. The production value of the podcast is no joke.
Well, that's the creatives that I was complaining about earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
it looks legit.
They are very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And they're just, and like I said, it's not something that I could do. And that's the other thing that we try to do is we try to, the reason that we go on location is we're trying to give a picture. I did a podcast with a guy, and we were in their warehouse, and it was one of the hottest days of the year. And this is really ironic. It was an HVAC company, and we sit in their warehouse, which is not air conditioned. And I literally was like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah, that is.
And I was like, "Really?" And I was sweating bullets. And they're like, "Team's like, well, do you want to go into their office and do it in the conference room?" And I'm like, "If we're real and authentic, I can sit here and sweat my ass off." Because your guys are out there working right now, sweating their asses off.
They're in some attic somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can totally do that. And that's why we try to do it, because it's for the men and women that are out there in the trades and to lift the view to what they're doing.
Sure.
That's why we do it. So.
Well, you wanted a job site for me, but like I said, I'm a pencil pusher.
Yeah. Yeah. So nice. Well, in that case, we were going to fake it, but you've moved a machine once or twice, or?
I actually ran a machine the other day.
Really?
Yeah, yes, I did very important work.
People let you do that after the skid loader incident.
I did very important work. I didn't even scratch it. Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. How do people find the podcast?
So you can go to our website and you click that hamburger, blacklineltd.com. You can click the hamburger menu in the line. If you search YouTube, the line by Blackline, it'll come up, and anywhere on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's on all that.
And then you're on LinkedIn
I'm on
consistently
LinkedIn
as well.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Joshua Mellot, and I'm also on Instagram, but I think LinkedIn's where it's at, but that's just me.
I'm a huge LinkedIn guy.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet.
Thanks, Aaron, for challenging us to get on board with this.
Yeah. Hey, I've enjoyed watching it. So.
Yeah. The podcast that we did at Dirt World was probably the clincher for me that changed everything.
Well, you came up and asked me. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Do whatever you want to do. Like, people have asked me, like, hey, can we have a happy hour? I'm like, have a happy hour. I don't know. Like, this is your show.
I should have asked you that. That's what I should have asked you.
Yeah.
It would have cost me a lot less money.
Like, they're asking my permission. I'm like, I don't know. Like, our events team probably is going to chew my ass, but like, have at it. Whatever you want to do. Well, cool.
Cool.
All right on.
Thanks, man.